All right, we are at Big 12 Media Days, day one of Big 12 Media Days. No Colorado Buffaloes here, Adam. They'll be here tomorrow. So we got 8 other teams today, but we were kind of talking. This is kind of we ease into Media Days when CU goes on day 2. But what were your impressions of day 1?
Not anything over the top, but a few of Brett Yormark's comments were interesting to lead off the day. Yeah. You just with this conference, I would almost say they're still kind of fighting the parity thing a little bit. Yeah. You might as well just embrace it because it's not going away anytime soon. I was talking with Brian Henley earlier today. He does a podcast called the Big 12 Insiders, and it's like the notion that they're going to have blue bloods in this conference anytime soon, it's not realistic. Yeah. So that part of it was interesting. But, he talked about the fact that the reason they did away with the preseason media poll was that he felt like it was it put Arizona State at a disadvantage going into just the perception of things last year. And early in the season, that was kind of the case with BYU, right? Yeah. Because of the preseason expectations. So I kind of get it from that standpoint. But it's always a fun talking point at Media Day, and so you don't have that element to go to. And it would have been interesting to see where Colorado came in on that. Probably middle of the conference, I would guess.
I would guess lower based on the preview magazines I've seen that have had them 11th, 12th, somewhere around there. I would guess in that lower half.
Okay. Well, last year the preseason picks were awful, so maybe you would want that. You want the poll to come out and be 16th on it.
Well, that's one thing about the poll is that, I can see what he's saying, but it also creates a lot of really cool stories. And ASU was a cool story last year. BYU was a cool story. Oklahoma State was not a cool story for the other way. But so I think it works both ways. But obviously his main thing, Yormark, is the CFP. They want teams in there, and if they feel that costs an extra spot for BYU or whatever, then I can see what he's talking about.
Well, I mean, as much as it is a league of parity without blue bloods, it's still quality football. Right. And it's still on the bottom half better than, some of those teams that play in the Big Ten and the SEC on a yearly basis. So I feel like it should be a two-bid conference in most years. Yeah. If it plays out the way that it typically will, I think, with the amount of talent that's in the conference.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's interesting, looking at, again, some of the preview magazines, you got Oklahoma State near the bottom. That's before last year had been an 18 straight bowl game. So if that's your baseline, if that's your bottom, I think that's pretty solid.
It makes for really fun, riveting football, which is a part of the parity aspect that I think sometimes people forget about is that, there were so many games that were meaningful until – that last game last year in the Big 12 because of all the tiebreakers. And so you had a lot of engaged fan bases, which makes it kind of fun. And, it's when I do the radio interviews, and I know you have to do a lot of these in other cities, and they want to put you on the spot and get a record prediction and go through the schedule. And it's like, you really – these are a lot of coin flip games in there once again, like it was last year. And I think it's going to be another fun season. But I think Colorado finishes in the top half of the conference, but maybe not in the top 3 or 4 spots. Yeah.
Speaking of last year, how many Buff fans were watching that BYU Houston game till the end, rooting for Houston until they kind of, I wouldn't say choked it up, but I mean, Houston made a mistake there at the end. Obviously ended CU's hopes of going to the Big 12 title game, but hope for the same thing this year. The Buffs, we're going to talk more about them tomorrow because they're going to take the stage. But a former Buff today, Jordan Tyson, he was asked about playing at Colorado. He says he has fond memories there. He still talks to a lot of guys. Chase Sowell was a teammate that is now at Iowa State. He says, that's my boy. I talked to him the other day. Talk about Jordan Tyson because he was ultra talented when he was here. We're like, oh my, that kid's gonna be good. And then had the injury, and then last year he showed that potential. He was a 1,000-yard receiver, and he's been on some preseason All-American lists. And I saw, I can't remember if it was Lindy's or Athlon projected him as the offensive player of the year in the conference this year. So Jordan Tyson living up to that hype.
It's a really cool story when you go all the way back to high school. He was young for his grade and didn't have big scholarship offers. Colorado was the lone Power 4 that went after him, which was surprising because he transferred to Allen High School, one of the top programs in Texas, for his senior year and had a fantastic season. So that was very perplexing, the recruiting process around Jordan Seaton, and then Jordan Tyson. remember that summer, you talk to anybody in the program who's standing out, Jordan Tyson. It was like a broken record, and he lived up to that, and that was a devastating injury that he came back from. And so to see him having that success, it's kind of tough for Colorado fans, I'm sure, to see that. Yeah. Colorado's been pretty good at receiver, though. Yeah. You know, like last year they had 4 NFL guys at that position. So, and 5, 6 if you want, if Draylon Miller and Omari Miller go on to be NFL guys. So they've been okay at that position. But yeah, I think with Dylan Edwards too, you hear his name and you're like, Buffs could use him right now.
Yeah, that's a different scenario. And I don't want to speculate where Jordan Tyson would have fit in that group last year, because you would diminish somebody that's really good. There's no question though the Buffs have been just fine at receiver without him and Chase Howell. But it is interesting that both those guys are starters, projected starters for 2 teams that the Buffs are going to face, and so that'll be interesting. But I'm happy for Jordan Tyson. I mean, he was a good kid, and there was a time, it was only 3 years ago, that we thought the future of this program was Owen McCown throwing to Jordan Tyson, and it happened for a few games, but they're on to bigger and better things, and the Buffs have moved on to better things as well.
I mean, they were true freshmen at the time. And like I mentioned, Jordan Tyson was young for his grade, so he was still maturing. Owen McCown was not physically ready to play football. They didn't have a choice. So, no, it's great to see that those guys have gone on to have success. But it also kind of shows you when back in 2022, when those are a couple of your best players, that's probably an issue, just because of their youth at that time.
Yeah. When they were your best players as true freshmen, that's really an issue. You'd like it if they're your best players now. Anything else from me today? Anybody else that you talked to that kind of stood out you want to talk about?
Well, no, it's a good event overall, but it's so much filtering through coach speak that it's like, you've really got to kind of go through each interview, and you might only get a quote or 2 out of it, because a lot of it is just the cookie cutter answers that you get. But it's always good, as we've talked about before, this summer is just, it kind of feels like the kickoff and getting closer to football season. What about you?
Yeah, I talked to some of the guys that are going to face Colorado this year, and L.J. Martin, the running back from BYU, who's played against CU, says he's looking forward to coming to Boulder, and it's always fun to play CU. And obviously, again, it's all coach speak. I get it, but some of these guys have never been to Boulder, so they're looking forward to experiencing that atmosphere. And so ask the K-State guys about them, but it's a little unfair because that's the last game of the year, and they're like, I don't know. I haven't looked at CU, but I guess the overall, it's cool that there's 2 matchups. I mean, Iowa State CU hasn't played in years. Kansas State, they played them last year, but haven't been to Manhattan in a long time. So there's some old Big 12 games that I know there's some Buff fans that are excited about those games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'd get excited about going to Manhattan in late November from that.
Maybe not the trip to Manhattan, but they're excited about the matchups.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. One other thing, Kalani Sitake was asked about Jake Rasleff, who it sounded like he was going to be off the team, even though the lawsuit against him got dropped because of the code of conduct at BYU? Honor code. So that was kind of interesting, because I thought for sure that he was not going to be back.
Well, I think he is for sure not going to be back, but Kalani, I think it was just kind of skirting the question a little bit and not wanting to say it for sure. But everything I've heard, he's definitely not going to be there. And even if he is, he's facing a 7-game suspension. He will not be playing in Boulder. So BYU's going to have a different quarterback either way.
Yeah, and he's a good player. He can be replaced, though. It's not like if Levitt went down for ASU tomorrow, So no, that
or Shedeur last year for Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. And Cosmo, by the way, is as creepy as ever.
The BYU mascot, yeah. I know you don't like Cosmo, so
he's talented. I'll give him that, but the dead eyes thing, I'm not about that.
Well, we're done with Cosmo because BYU's not here tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more about the Buffs.